Speaking of Ben Shapiro, though, I want to move on to maybe a lighter topic in terms of Ben's commentary. Ben Shapiro has chosen to weigh in on the Sinema situation when activists asked her questions, her constituents in a bathroom. Now, notice how the right wing is primarily leading the charge in defense of Kyrsten Sinema and goes to show the kinds of friends that she's making with this act of defiance on the Build Back Better plan. Ben Shapiro had thoughts about it, and trigger warning, he's about to talk about bathroom activities. So if you thought that the lack of a Hello Tushy ad today was meant we weren't going to be talking about going to the bathroom, Ben Shapiro has taken up that mantle for you. Yikes.
Hey, this reared its ugliest head yesterday when protesters followed Kyrsten Sinema, who's the senator from Arizona, who, again, is sort of the Democratic John McCain in all of this. Protesters followed Kyrsten Sinema into the bathroom. Here's a little bit of video of what that looked like.
We need a Build Back Better plan right now.
We knocked on doors. We need solutions. The Build Back Better plan has the solutions that we need.
We knocked on doors for you to get you elected, and just how we got you elected, we can get you out of office if you don't support what you promised us.
We need 7 million citizenship for 7 million. We need the Build Back Better plan right now.
I'm just going to point out here that it is my personal belief that everyone ought to be able to poop in peace. This is my personal belief. I want to live in an America where we can all take a dump in privacy and peace. If that's too much for you, well, you can find plenty of left-wing programs that will tell you differently. I was told that women's spaces were sacred spaces. Apparently not, if you're going to vote in favor of a bipartisan infrastructure act, but not in favor of a $3.5 trillion spending act. Now, the part of this that's amazing is how much kind of soft support the protesters receive for following Kyrsten Sinema into a bathroom.
Who says women's spaces are sacred spaces? Like,
certainly not the far right.
Yeah, and certainly not the left, because I've never heard that in my life. But you know, that's sounds like some weird like religious stuff there. I'm sorry to have to share that with you, audience. Him talking about human excrement and who gets to poop in peace. I don't really think that there's a good portion of people who should not be able to
should Hitler
poop
have been
in
able
peace.
to poop in peace? I mean, I'm not making a direct, let's just go there just to draw the point out. Like, no, I think most people say like, actually there's a line to be drawn. So it's just where you draw that line.
And she has the ability to poop in peace if she supports the Build Back Better plan. This is how progress gets done. This
I don't
is how
even think
sausage gets made.
I don't even think that's what they believe, but obviously the far right, content makers spent so many years complaining about trans people being allowed to go to the bathroom, because it might lead to the false society. This to me speaks to, I think, an underlying issue that, kind of leads the left and the right to, at least in the media space, to like coalesce around each other, which is that like as a public figure, as somebody who makes their, living from being a public figure in a way that's distinct from like being a celebrity, that there needs to be some kind of like strict public-private divide between people who like essentially make a living making society worse or by being obstinate. And this kind of defense of Sinema is a defense of the idea that like, people should be allowed to be, socially deleterious member of society, but also just go home at night to like their family and like pretend as though like they're just, a normal Joe Schmo going to like, work in the coal mines or whatever people pretend like Americans do. When in reality, it's just like, our politicians are not celebrities, and the transition from like voter into like fan of a celebrity who you're not allowed to make real demands of unless you do it in their preferred way is just not it's not real. It's just like it is a shift and pivot in responsibility from, again, the politicians who were hired, who were elected to fulfill a very specific role, onto the voters who have been transformed into people who are, should just expect them to be able to act like capricious gods or like Brad Pitt, doesn't owe you anything. It's just like, no, our relationships with our like politicians and with a lot of our, pundits and a lot of our journalists is a transactional one. And to treat it as though it's not transactional is not to be like, reactionary, but to be aware of the boundaries and the expectations that our put upon them and that they have to follow through with. At the end of the day, like we're not fans of Kyrsten Sinema and even the most like broad sense of the word, and we shouldn't be expected to comport ourselves like fans of her, even if that means that like we're also not anti-fans of her, who should be required to pretend as though the actions she makes are just her own and have no real impact on anybody else.
Yeah.
It is amazing to hear the guy who hops on every trans bathroom outrage talk about going to the bathroom in peace. I mean, this is a guy who certainly loves making sure that transgender people don't get to, what did he say? Poop in peace in the bathroom that matches their gender identity. I mean, come on.
Yeah, pretty sure also just by definition, being in a public restroom is not a peaceful poop.
Right.
I would say, like, Ben Shapiro does have some consistency on this. Like, the sort of... there's a line between authoritarianism versus fascism. Say fascism more interested in popular mobilization. And I'd say Shapiro's strictly on the authoritarian side because he was one of the only right-wing pundits who denounced Jan 6 and said it was silly, and it said it was, more importantly, motivated by a lie about the election. So he's, I think, more or less discomfortable with sort of popular expressions or demands. And so there's actually some consistency, unlike the other people trying to make Ashley Babbitt a martyr at the same time as saying, oh, look at poor Sinema.
Also, I'm laughing at the Democratic John McCain that he's like, we were joking about it before, but he said it in a very serious very seriously.
A little tear rolled on his cheek, and he, got a little, his heart grew two sizes when he thought about John McCain.
Ryan Cole says Sinema. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. It's fine.
Ryan Cole says Sinema can move in peace if she supports the infrastructure bill, or if she would give her reasons for not supporting it. As she acts all sassy and thumbs down for a living minimum wage, but won't say to anyone her reasoning for her obstructionism. It really is incredible how she's just like not speaking publicly. She feels no tether to the people who have elected her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I get from her, that she thinks that she's allowed to act like a celebrity. We've entered the age of politics where it's become very heavily, influenced by social media, very heavily influenced by just our lack of real oversight and accountability from the media for people who are put in these jobs for things. And now people, now we have this new wave of politicians who just are very, very like, this is just a way to be famous, I think. And that's what it seems like. And the kind of responsibilities that come from being a public servant and not just like any other type of, public official are just different. And, I know people have been trying to transition us into thinking about Hillary Clinton as like, she's a service provider of content and, you're just a fan. So, you can't be mad when she doesn't provide what you want. It's like, that's just not, no. It's like they're, I hate to be that person, but, politicians work for you. They're supposed to work for you.
Yeah. A kid tested Politburo approved. I really don't get the outrage over the protesters following Sinema into the bathroom. They were calm, didn't approach her in a threatening manner, and didn't raise their voices. It is because the people who are pushing the outrage are worried that it's going to happen to them.
Well, and it's also, everyone defending Sinema is basically pro-austerity, but doesn't want to just say that. I mean, Ben Shapiro did. He said, we don't need to do the 3.5 trillion, but most people don't want to elaborate that because it's distasteful to a wide audience.
All right, so they make it about decorum, right? And civility.
It's about decorum, or like that, like Crowder focused on, like, was an illegal immigrant that was asking her.
Yeah.
Like, it's that stuff, because you can't focus that you're just supporting the boss. That's why Tucker makes his immigration stuff about, I actually just care about laborers. That's why I support this massive sort of apparatus to discipline immigrant workforce.